Civil society and training. Civil society as a term was originated in Europe towards the end of 18th century. The concept of civil society was first used by Hegel 1770 to 1831 in his philosophy of right in the year 1821. According to him, civil society are organized body that stood intermediate between the state and the family. According to Hegel, it was natural progression or dialectical development from a family to a state. There also existed major distinctions between a state and a civil society. Civil society is separate from the state and has organs of governance. The state, if it has police, legal and administrative organs, the civil society has no state institutions which are market regulated and voluntarily organized. A civil society is autonomous even though it may exist as a subject of the state and of the government authorities. In a civil society, men interact with minimal of ethical or legal limitations and implies the existence of civil rights, economic rights, rights of association, the right to trial by a jury, and the right to promote group interests. There is a structure in civil society as there exist duties also. Gramsci, the leading Marxist theoretician during his tenure, has taken the view that in civil society there exists political and cultural hegemony which a social group exercises over the whole of society as the ethical content of the state. Gramsci opinionated civil society to be superstructural over the state. Civil society is well developed in the USA, and it is said that the annual budget of civil societies exceed $300 billion, where the funds mostly come out of the state. In India, civil society is fast developing after the 1970s, and so far there are no outward indications of it other than in the Indian Constitution, where it indirectly refers to the freedom to form associations provisions. Organizations and institutions that make up civil society include labor unions, non-profit organizations, churches and other services that provide important services to society but in general ask very little in return to the services that they provide. Next, we'll take a look at zone of difference or zone of indifference. Bernard popularized the theory of contribution satisfaction equilibrium, also called as equilibrium theory. This theory states that the survival of an organization depends upon the maintenance of equilibrium between the contributions and the satisfaction of its participants. Whereas contributions are provided by the participants to the organization, satisfaction is provided by the organization to the participants. He also states that whenever a man gets back what he puts in, there is no incentive, there is no net satisfaction in cooperation. Bernard analyzed multiplicity of satisfaction and explains the following four inducements, which is given under inducements in satisfaction theory. So the first one is material inducements. For example, money, it is a material inducement. Non-material inducement, an example is prestige or pride, which is a non-material inducement. Desirable contribution of work, such as safe working place, that is an example. And then the fourth one is ideal patronages, such as pride at the workplace. The zone of action in which a superior can act freely is called the zone of indifference. According to Chester Bernard, a group in an organization which does not question the merit of an order or an authority but merely complies with their decisions is said to be in the zone of indifference. For such groups, the order for actions are unquestionably accepted. The executive will also be careful in delegating such orders that falls within the order of indifference. The zone or the extent of zone of indifference is determined by the contribution satisfaction equilibrium theory. This zone can be expanded depending upon the effectiveness of the previous orders given. Next, we'll take a look at vestibule training, where we actually explain simulation, action training, cue, and uncertainty, which makes up the vestibule training. So let's see what is simulation. So simulation is a method of making decisions under condition, uncertainty. It represents a situation by model to facilitate a study. It is defined as the action of performing experiment by giving a model of a given system. With the help of simulation, an entrepreneur or a business manager can observe the dynamic behavior system similar to the way a scientist observes his experiments in a laboratory. Whereas simulation is a model or experiment of a given system and as such part of action training. Action training is a training with a strong lenience on learning based on activity using techniques such as simulation, role-playing, case studies and games. So it more or less includes simulation also. Next we'll take a look at cues or cueing theory. So another aspect which requires some explanation in this context is about cues or cueing theory. Normally, a line that forms in front of a service offering is called a queue. A queue thus involves customers who may wait to be serviced at a facility. Queues are very common in modern civilized life. For example, there exists a queue in a railway station counter. Long queues may exist at a bus stop for boarding the bus, etc. Customers wait at a queue often at the expense of money or equipment. There is a cost associated with waiting in a line and is called as waiting time cost. If there is no queue, the service facility is underutilized and the cost associated with this is called service cost. So the objective of queuing theory is to get in a good economic balance between these two types of costs, which is waiting cost and service cost, and is set to reach an optimum point when the sum of waiting time cost and service cost is minimum. Next, we'll take a look at uncertainty. Uncertainty is a decision-making condition in which managers face unpredictable external conditions or face lack of information of a probable set of events that follow. Uncertainty may be external or internal depending upon the source of information, where it's supposed to come from. Model synthesis of an organization bases its fact on the premises that all organizations should be capable and must deal with uncertainty. With respect to training extended, vestibule training is quite worthy of mention, especially when it involves a series of introductory lectures followed by inspection trips to the department and field stations to provide first-hand knowledge to its employees. Vestibule training combines theory and practice. This may be on-the-job training or classroom training. The trainees may work in a simulated environment. Normally best at training semi-skilled personnel, the group getting trained may include inspectors, typists, etc. In India, the senior officers of Forest Service may also adopt these types of training. So next we'll take a look at task technology. Task technology emerged as a set of variables internal to the organization and was prominent in the year 1960. It refers to the different kinds of production technology in the making of different kinds of products. John Woodward, a proponent of this while conducting relevant studies on task technology, found that an organization's task technology affected both its structure and its success. Other similar research has suggested that the effects of task technology is extremely prominent in small firms and moderately prominent in the lower levels of a big organization. So this more or less sums up vestibule training. Thank you.